So how do you rank a turd? I guess you rank a turd on the one that smells the least? This is tough. Here I'm going to rank all of the theatrical release G.I. Joe movies, and it's going to be rough because I kind of hate most of them. All right, most. I kind of hate them. This is all of the theatrically released G.I. Joe movies ranked. You can see other people did this. Sean Chandler talks about movies I'm a big fan of. He did this. I'm going to give you a ranking slightly different from his, I think. See how mine compares to his. He's also a fan. I'm not a super fan. I'm not just a fan. I'm a guy who has a problem, right? So this is what other people have ranked the G.I. Joe movies, and all of them, you know, the people who've done it aren't people who have like a clear like problem with, you know, G.I. Joe obsession. So that's where we're coming from now, is like, what does somebody who's psychotically obsessed with G.I. Joe think about this shitty movies? And the thing I think is that D. Bonaventura must be stopped. He must not be allowed to make more G.I. Joe movies. Either that or he has to have some sort of weird version of A Christmas Carol where like 3 G.I. Joe characters appear to him and say, you must stop your ways and stop making shitty movies because, or you're going to like live the rest of your life unhappy and sad and, you know, go to G.I. Joe hell or something. And because he shits the bed every time he tries to make one of these things. And so let's get to it. There's not that many of these. And of the worst of these movies, the one I just hate so much, I hate it so much, I want to punch it in his stupid face, has to be The Rise of Cobra. This movie sucks. It sucks so hard. It is one of the worst things I've ever seen. Unfortunately, here it is. I'm a big fan, waiting my whole life for somebody to come out with a G.I. Joe movie. All I did as a little kid was dream of them being a G.I. Joe movie. Now, the time the movie comes out, I'm not kidding anymore. I'm pretty old. Okay? I don't know. But so I learned that Stephen Sommers, the director of The Mummy, is going to come out with a G.I. Joe movie. I am not thrilled with this idea. Could it be as bad as I thought it was going to be? It was so much worse. Is it the worst action movie ever made? No, it's pretty mid-level terrible. It isn't a good movie. I mean, that's for sure. It's not a good movie. But what I do think it is maybe the worst is it's the worst example of somebody taking something that has a huge fan base and screwing it up so colossally that it just does not even remotely resemble the source material in any way. And this is why I hate this movie so much. One, they make them an international team. Can't have a real American hero movie. Okay, I get maybe political reasons why you don't want to do that. I'm not a fan of it, though. I don't like it. Second, you remove all their cool weirdness and crazy outfits and you give them these black jumpsuits. Not a fan. Not a fan of that at all. Third, you gave Snake Eyes a mouth. And he's basically a rubber man. He's a rubber suit man. And he's got a pretty mouth.
He got a real pretty mouth, ain't he?
I know, okay, all right. The original figure had a mouth. I get that. The original version 2 Snake Eyes also had a little mouth slit there. He just looks like a weird rubber sex doll of some sort. It's terrible. The casting is uniformly bad. I think that Ray Park is pretty good as Snake Eyes, as he's a martial artist. And what do you have to do to be Snake Eyes other than be physically fit and fill out the suit and do some martial arts? Yeah, okay, fine. But everybody else is miscast. Duke, Channing Tatum. I mean, this is like Channing Tatum. I'm not a big Channing Tatum fan, but this is Channing Tatum when he was like really lame, when the only thing he did had done was Step Up. So that was annoying. And he is no Duke. I'm not even a Duke fan, but it just makes a terrible Duke.
Channing fucking Tatum, dog!
I love him.
It's fucking G.I. Joe, dude. Fucking loves me.
The Baroness. Also, again, the Baroness. Why are they making the Baroness and Duke in love, doing this kind of stupid twist? They made my boy Destro a complete pussy. I like the actor, he's a decent actor, but they made him such a lame ass.
I've finally taken my place in the long line of McCullens.
James.
And they took his girlfriend away from him. They gave him to Duke. I don't like that either. I think she's completely wrong for the Baroness. I get it. She's a good-looking woman. She looks good in tight black leather. She's got dark hair and she's hot. So that's the Baroness. No, the Baroness has to be European. She's got to have some sort of accent. Okay? What really blows my mind too is what's-her-face from Rise of Cobra is actually British, but is for some reason doing an American accent the entire time. All she would have to do is like kick in with the British accent. British accent's not even right though. She's got to be really like Eastern European. Like they don't really state necessarily what country the Baroness is from. I'd imagine she's from one of those like weird countries nobody knows about, like Estonia or something, somewhere a little or Eastern European, something like one of those Eastern Bloc countries that is not one of the big ones, right? That's where I guess she would come from. Instead, what do? We get the only British woman who doesn't have an accent. For some reason, doesn't have an accent. She has an American accent. I think back in the day, Femke Jensen would have been like the perfect Baroness. Same era. Beautiful, dark hair, scary, and would have the accent, can bring the accent. The other lady looks too like she's pretty. I know some of you love her Baroness because she looks good. I get it. There's more to it than that, right? She looks good but not exotic. She looks very like plain. She's plain old hot looking, British lady. Totally wrong, completely wrong for the movie. And it also does this thing where it just goes way too hard into the sci-fi. It's got these stupid accelerator suits, and it's got the nanobite monsters and shit, which is stuff that you would have in a cartoon. But I've always said my favorite elements of GI Joe, I like it when it rides the line of sci-fi but doesn't like tip over into the crazy, where it gets like things like, okay, Dr. Mindbender, the brainwave scanner, maybe the creation of Serpentor, things that are like ridiculous, but you can kind of buy. But when you get into these like super weapons, then it gets sort of stupid, and I'm just not a fan. The most egregious thing has to be, though, the creation of Cobra Commander.
You will call me Commander.
Cobra Commander, played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, just looks like this weird, stupid doctor character. And this is also where we learn that they nixed the idea of the hood for Cobra Commander because they thought he looks too much like a Ku Klux Klan member, which is absolutely ridiculous and stupid. And they gave him this look instead, which, and the whole movie is just a complete you to your childhood. It really is. It's just, I know people say that a lot, and people who complain about like Spider-Man's stripes not, Spider-Man's webbing not being right in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies. Like, this is not that. This is when they disregard literally everything about the thing you care about, and they completely do whatever the hell they want with it, and they turn it into a very generic, dumb action movie. That's what this is. This is bottom of the list, the worst G.I. Joe movie ever made. Hopefully it will be the worst G.I. Joe movie that is ever made. I think they could do worse, but I'm hoping that they don't. Okay, ripcord, right? Then what we have hundreds and hundreds of characters to pick from to amp up and make your leads. And what do they pick? They pick Channing Tatum and the annoying Wayans brother. The annoying one. You could have gotten any Wayans brother. There's like 70 of them. A lot of them are pretty good. Like, Damon Wayans. I'm cool. I'm down. Right? You had to get Marlon, who's the most annoying person. Like, just absolutely annoying. And then you make Ripcord. Why Ripcord? I have no idea. And then you make him pair up and start flirting with Scarlet, which Snake Eye should just chop his head off the second that happens. Annoying Wayans brother. I will give it a couple of good moments. That is a pretty good car chase scene until you bring in the accelerator suits, and then it becomes dumb. Yeah, that's it. No, everything else is shit. I hate that movie. And the next in line, and tell me what you think. What's your favorite, least favorite? Why do you hate these or love these movies? Why am I wrong? Why am I right? So next in line, we have Snake Eye's Origins. Okay. don't think this movie is that bad as a movie. As a movie, it's okay. It's got some mysticism. It's got some fun elements. But it has nothing to do with Snake Eyes. It has absolutely... In fact, not only does it not have anything to do with Snake Eyes, it doesn't get Snake Eyes at all, and this is the most repulsive thing about this movie. One, they make Snake Eyes a completely immoral scumbag. He's just an absolute asshole. And that is not what Snake Eyes is. Snake Eyes is actually a very good character, a very well-developed character. Snake Eyes is like a really great character. He's a really good human being. He, loses his face and his voice by rescuing Scarlet from a helicopter crash, and then wants to continue the mission afterwards. So he's a purely good person who's complex and interesting, and they make him like an awful person who's manipulative and lying and dumb, and I also think the casting is completely wrong, and I don't want for Snake Eyes, and not because he's Asian. Oh, I'm not going to get into that. I don't want to talk about that. You can talk about that in the comments. I don't care about it. I think you could have gotten an Asian guy that would maybe fit Snake Eyes better. I think Andrew Koji, who is actually a great Storm Shadow, would have made a better Snake Eyes. Because there's something about Henry Golding, who's a decent enough actor, he's just too pretty. He's not really, he doesn't have like the physique that you would need to be Snake Eyes. He doesn't have like the gravitas of Snake Eyes, right? I think that's what Snake Eyes is, like a silent, powerful man. I think even before he lost his voice, he was a silent and powerful man, right? Sort of stoic and powerful. And Henry Golding just doesn't communicate that at all. He doesn't really have the right physicality for it. Not because he's Asian, just because he is who he is, okay? He's wrong. He's wrong for the role.
It looks like Snake Eyes has something to say.
Snake Eyes doesn't talk.
Actually, I'm Henry Golding.
Henry Golding!
Where the movie is actually pretty good, as I think. I love Samara Weaving as Scarlet. I think she's a dead-on perfect Scarlet. I think every moment she's in this movie, I love. I got excited about the Baroness too. I know a lot of people hate the Baroness because she has dumb hair. They did give her a dumb haircut, but she's a pretty great version of the Baroness. Again, she's right on. She's European. I think I would go more Eastern European, where they went more like Spain, Portugal type European, but still, at least she's got an accent, right? And she can act, and she's scary, and she's, I also think they really nailed the idea of like an early Cobra in the very realistic way that Cobra would sort of slowly emerge and operate, and I love that the secretive nature of it, where you see like they've just got a little Cobra pin. That version of Cobra is something I want to see more of, and I love that part of the movie. So there's some things in the movie that I do love, but there's also some things in this movie that I absolutely hate. What I hate in this movie is the way they treat Snake Eyes, and also like the whole story is just, it's stupid. It's stupid because in the end, basically what happens, if you've seen the movie, is Snake Eyes betrays the Arashikage in just about every single way. He betrays them, he infiltrates them, he screws them over, he causes horrible havoc and causes people to die. And then in the end, he redeems himself, and so they're just like, oh, whatever. And Storm Shadow is banished because he uses power too aggressively, and he's banished from the Arashikage, and then that's where he becomes the enemy of Snake Eyes. This makes no sense in any world, right? In the end, even after Snake Eyes rescues them and comes and redeems himself, in any world, you'd still kill him. I would still kill that character because he has betrayed them to such a level. These people are ninjas, right? They're not morally upstanding citizens. They're morally gray, and they're utilitarian, and they would kill somebody or punish them at least aggressively for what they did. I mean, he'd definitely have to lose a hand, at least, but I'd say he gotta die. The character Akiko is one of the dumbest characters in movie history. She lets Snake Eyes betray her entire clan basically just because she's thirsty for him. I think that's all that could be. The only thing we can assume is she wants Snake Eyes dead, and that is the only reason why you would not chop his head off halfway through this movie. So that is terrible. I also don't like, so they feels like they went in the route of the cartoon where he's got a stone and the stone lights things on fire, and that's the secret stone that we must find is like this secret weapon that will help Cobra rule the world. First of all, don't do this stupid shit with secret stones. And this isn't Raiders Lost Ark. This is a military fantasy. There's enough cool stuff in the military fantasy. You got ninjas, you got robot warrior soldiers, we got tanks, you got helicopters, you got all this kind of stuff. You don't need to make it more crazy and throw in stupid stones. The other thing is, now the stone is a stupid ass weapon. Okay, so the stone, you point the stone at somebody and it lights them on fire. You know what also does that? A flamethrower. Yeah, you can get them for like $400 on Amazon, and you can do the same thing that you just spent like decades trying to infiltrate the Arashikage clan for. Just buy a flamethrower, right? And you know, they're not that hard to come by. You also think about it, it's like we live in a world in which you could have a Gatling gun and you know, or you could have this and a bazooka and you know a drone, and you're worried about a little rock that lights people on fire. Stupid movie. The action scenes are terrible. The shaky cam renders all the action dumb, and it doesn't work. Where it gets a bunch of things right, and it is kind of fun in a lot of ways, and maybe not the worst movie, but it just is so wrong about who Snake Eyes is, and it just changes the myth. It just doesn't, for no reason, it just does not use any of the source material. It changes everything, and then credits Larry Hama in the beginning for as a creator when it changes everything he came up with. Doesn't understand the character, and that to me is like the most important thing, is that you at least like understand the character, and or don't make the movie. One of the fundamental things that you have to understand about Snake Eyes is, in order to make a movie about him, is you don't make a movie about Snake Eyes, because the mystery of Snake Eyes is what makes him interesting. You can't start with the origin story of Snake Eyes. You have to go in 5-6 movies, you know, have him be in the background, this stoic, creepy, you know, cool, good guy character that's mysterious and terrifying. And then, like in the comic book, that's what he was in the comic book. He's mysterious for years, and then you lay out his story. You create a mystery, and then you answer the mystery. This leads with the mystery being answered. It's a stupid way to reboot the franchise. Doesn't understand Snake Eyes. That's why it's low on the list. Not as low as a turd that is Rise of Cobra. Next on the list, we have GI Joe Retaliation. And this is just a very mediocre action movie. It is very mediocre. There's not a lot of, it's not great. It's also not terrible. It's a pretty good watch. If you watch it, it's a good time. And what most importantly to me is it respects and understands the fandom somewhat, kinda. It's where it falls down is that it is a cheap movie. It was clear that the first movie was a big hit, but people hated it. So it was a movie that made, Rise of Cobra made a decent amount of money. Not a huge hit, but it made a decent amount of money, enough to warrant a sequel. But it just wasn't like loved, and so the new director comes in, John Chu, I believe. The new director comes in and takes over, and gives us what we kind of wanted in the first one. He kills off the cast. It was like, one thing I love about this movie is it is made by someone who also hated Rise of Cobra, because the first thing they do is they kill off Channing Tatum, then they kill off everybody else. They leave us Snake Eyes, and they bring in The Rock as Roadblock, and they bring in a new team. Now, Rock as Roadblock is kind of a win. Some of the casting here is good. Ray Stevenson as Firefly is pretty great. the Cobra Commander looks great. It's a great looking suit. I think the Storm Shadow is he's a bland martial artist instead of actor. I think that Andrew Koji Storm Shadow is the best cinematic Storm Shadow that we've gotten. I think he was pretty great in Snake Eyes Origins. I think this guy is he's just generic ninja. He's like, if you don't really understand the lore, you don't really understand GI Joe, he's who you cast. He's, you know, good martial artist, and maybe that's all you need. But nothing really too interesting about him other than he's good at martial arts. But the casting, Jinx is great here. I think she looks a lot like the action figure Jinx from the Classified line, and beautiful, great martial artist. And there's this awesome fight on the mountainside that really gives you exactly what you want from a GI Joe movie. Everything looks like it's supposed to look. That is one of the big things. I know it's a simple, dumb thing, and it doesn't make it a great movie, but a lot of the things that you want to see, you're seeing in a movie. But the movie is cheap and small scale. It's so small scale that, you know, there's really only like 6-7 GI Joe characters in the movie, which is not what you want. I think you want to make a GI Joe movie. You do want to make it big and expansive, like a Mission Impossible movie where you've got like a core team and then you've got side teams and you're following these people in different locations. And it just doesn't do that. It's a much more smaller scale, which I think they probably had to do that for budgetary reasons. The addition of Bruce Willis as Joe Colton, the original GI Joe, was also fun, and I like that. Some of the casting isn't great. I think the guy who plays Flint is like the world's most forgettable actor. Like I kind of forgot he was in this movie. Adrian Palicki as whatever the hell her name is, Lady J. I mean, I am not going to complain about her as Lady J when you throw in a scene like this.
And it's crazy pills again. Baby, I'm gonna have to call you back. Yeah, love you.
I also love that this movie is just like, just doesn't age that well. It's like, you know, you pulling off shit like this, we just exploit her every single moment we can. And she's pretty good in the movie, and she's good to look at, so I don't mind her. But she's not Lady J. She has almost none of the qualities that make a Lady J. She's not really a covert ops actor. She doesn't transform. I mean, if you want Lady J, first of all, you gotta have some javelins to be throwing. And second, you gotta have her with a little, it says on her file cards, you got a little Irish lilt to her. And she is a master of disguise, basically. You got to at least put her in disguise. You know, she goes undercover at one point, but all she does is to be undercover is she wears a little skin-tight cocktail dress over everyone. It's a banger. That is not really a good strategy for undercover. You would want her to change her appearance in some way. That would how you make her Lady J. But I don't fault her. I think she's good in the movie. In the end, it's just a pretty okay action movie. I think if I was going on like what the best movie is, I think the Snake Eyes Origins and this movie are interchangeably or maybe even swapping, but I'm not. I'm going in as a super fan, as somebody who's obsessed with this, who absolutely loves the franchise so much, and loves the toy line and loves all the lore so much. From a fan of the lore of GI Joe, this is way better than Snake Eyes Origins, and we won't even talk about how much better it is than Rise of freaking Cobra. Okay, this leaves the best GI Joe theatrical release to be, of course, GI Joe the movie. And now it is a wacky, bizarro, fun movie, and I think it holds up. I think if you objectively watch all these right in a row, the only one that has a really compelling story arc is GI Joe the movie. And so where you get this great arc of Falcon coming in as sort of a nepo baby, Duke's brother, and gets in the GI Joe team, GI Joe team, but he's not like the best guy. Like, he completely sexually harasses Jinx like every 2 minutes, which is hilarious, and not something that you would see in a cartoon today, but it's funny. I don't give a shit.
Nice legs for a grease monkey, soldier.
Falcon! Ow!
Want me to kiss it and make it better?
Consider this motor pool enemy territory.
Of course, that is all 80s movies. The guy that sexually harasses you is kind of who you end up with in the end, right? So it's Jinx and Falcon, you know, they're a couple by the end of this. But he has a compelling character arc. He goes from this cad, just sort of guy who doesn't give a shit. He's put through the ringer. The Slaughters becomes part of Slaughter's Marauders, and he trains with the new recruits, and he becomes the hero. He becomes a good man. So there's a compelling story arc, and very interesting. Now, of course, this is the movie where Duke was supposed to die, and then they pulled away and said, no, you can't do that because we killed Optimus Prime, and kids were crying and yelling at their moms were calling Hasbro HQ, and we can't do it again. I do think it would have been better if they killed off Duke. I think I would have been okay with the killing of Duke. At least it gives you some drama, and there are just so many characters in the GI Joe world that you don't necessarily need them. But as the movie plays out, it's also pretty fun. When it came out and Cobra La was revealed, to me, it's a little bit too sci-fi. It's a little bit too weird fantasy for me. It pushes in a direction, G.I. Joe, in a direction that I don't love. I said before, and many times, I really like when G.I. Joe rides the line. I want some science fiction. I want some ridiculous or over the top or speculative things in the lore, but I don't want it to go overboard to the point where it becomes Star Wars, where it becomes a fantasy world. However, I also don't love the direction of Cobra Commander being a snake person who then gets turned into a snake, and none of that feels to me like G.I. Joe. I really prefer the stone cold sociopath version of Cobra Commander, who creates Cobra through his megamaniacal personality and manipulations and underhanded deals and selling Armco products and all of that stuff from the comic book. That's my Cobra Commander. However, having said that, I also accept that this is a thing that exists and that it's a part of the lore. And as much as it isn't the direction that I like G.I. Joe to go in, I gotta admit, damn, that shit looks cool. I mean, as a weird fantasy world, it's one of the most unique ones I've ever seen. It's like, it wasn't generic at all. It's this completely unique and bizarre world that just, the world building is crazy. The look of these characters, great. Pythona, Nemesis Enforcer, the design of those characters are some of my favorite designs. And so they're great looking and Globulus. Burgess Meredith is killing it as Globulus. He is acting. I love that. He came in and he just acted as if he was in some sort of Oscar-worthy movie. He kills it in every scene.
Know that I am Globulus, supreme ruler of this kingdom of Cobra La.
So this movie is really fun. As much as I would say it wouldn't be like my choice. I don't think it would be Buzz Dixon's choice either. As you can find that Buzz Dixon wrote a alternate, last season of G.I. Joe called Most Dangerous Man in the World, which wouldn't have used Cobra La at all. He wasn't a fan. But they went in the Cobra La direction, and I think they kind of killed it with Cobra La. I think Cobra La is just, as much as it's not the direction I wanted to go, I do love Cobra La. I do want that once a man version of Cobra Commander in the classified form. And it's just the best G.I. Joe movie we've gotten so far. There's so many good moments in it too. The action is better than in any of these other movies. The fight between Pythona and Jinx, when Jinx puts the blindfold on and then kicks the shit out of Pythona, is great. The Sergeant Slaughter as Drill Sergeant and Mentor is really potent. The weird, pairing of blind Roadblock and Once a Man Cobra Commander as a sort of, sort of a Defiant Ones reference was great. There's just a lot of lore and built here, and it is a very satisfying movie. The animation is gorgeous. The opening sequence animation is absolutely stunning. And overall, it's just a great and good fun movie. much better than all the other ones on the list. Hopefully someday we will get a better GI Joe movie. If you want to see some really good versions of GI Joe from people who actually care about the lore of GI Joe, check out this fan film Oscars video I made that details many fan-made films all about GI Joe with much more love than any of these movies, except of course GI Joe the movie was made with. And let me know what other things I should review or talk about. Thank you.